got my head out the sunroof. I'm blasting our favorite tunes. I only got one thing on my mind. You got me stuck on the thought of you. You're making me feel brand new. You're more than a sunshine in my eyes. I'm feeling like this might be my time to shine with you, with you, with you. I got my head out the sunroof. I'm blasting our favorite tunes.
Hi, welcome back. This is episode 15 of In the Middle and Out of the Box. This week we have a great episode for you. It was such a pleasure to be able to visit the Schmidt Boca Raton History Museum, also known as the Boca Historical Society, or prior known. We met the director there. Her name was Mary Cesar, and she was so accommodating, so fantastic. She basically took over the interview, took the microphone, and went with it. So I just rolled, and we let her lead. And she had a plan and a mission, and we followed it. And she did great. We have a new star in Boca, and so she did a fantastic job at giving us some history, the tour, and just kind of the background. They have a lot. They just finished a renovation there recently, so everything is just beautiful, very interactive displays, 3D displays. They have a lot of artifacts, just so much history that is just so impressive. They also have a store there. They have a community volunteer center that provides information that's part of the county. So as far as county information or visitor center kind of information. So it's kind of everything's in there, and it's just fantastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch her video. I am still trying to get into Del Rey. I'm having trouble getting into Del Rey. I'm also still not able to get into the Sandaway House. So we did have Gumbo Limbo, but I also wanted to represent Del Rey and have the Sandaway House. So we're still waiting for that. And then we're also waiting for hopefully the Historical Society in Del Rey. But again, it seems like we're having trouble getting in for some reason. But for right now, we're doing Boca, and they were open arms. They couldn't wait for us to come. And they were so hospitable and a pleasure. So sit tight, watch this video in the tour, and then I'll be back to go through our updates. I have some great updates, some great science technology, and some new information. It's very important for all Palm Beach County residents. And I'll see you at the end of the video. Thanks. Enjoy. Today we are at the Schmidt Boca Raton History Museum, and we have Mary Cesar, who is the director, and where she's going to tell us a little bit about it and also give us a little tour and behind the scenes kind of info. So why don't we start from there? So why don't you tell us a little bit, hello by the way.
Oh, hi, how are you? Good to see you.
So can you tell us a little bit about, I know you just recently went through a renovation here, and kind of give us a little bit of that.
Okay, I'm just thinking back. 2019, we started with the renovation of the building. The building had not been renovated since the mid-'80s. And so we did some upgrades in the building with the city's help. This is a city building. And following that, we installed new exhibits, new state-of-the-art immersive exhibits on the history of Boca Raton. So we're very proud of our exhibits. You will learn a lot. They're very dense. And Boca Raton has a wonderful history. So it's a lot of fun. Behind me is a timeline down our central hallway that goes from our pre-Columbian days with our Native Americans all the way up to 2005. And the reason for that is that we wanted to end and include our hurricane year, a bad hurricane year. We also wanted to end and be able to include the story of anthrax that we had here in 2001. So we ended it there, but never fear, there is a monitor that has history since then, and we brought it all the way up. But the hallway is, this timeline exhibit is not just 2D, it's also 3D. We have artifacts, we have lots of pictures, we have monitors with more pictures, and we have a section at the very top that shows the landscape in this area as time goes on. Yeah, it's really interesting. We start out with clearing the land, and we end up with Meisner Park.
So now the additional years, are those going to be in a different area of the museum, like when you continue on?
Well, the timeline starts at one end, and it goes consecutively up. So it's done by decades. Once we hit the 10s, our pioneer years, we see right here, we start with the decades 1910, 1920s, and go up that way. But we have 4 major exhibits that are in rooms off the hallway. And if we're going to go through those chronologically. So we'll start with the Pioneer Room.
Okay, so we're in the Pioneer Room now, and Mary, why don't you take it over?
Okay. The Pioneer Room is one of our large rooms, and it also has an outside door, and it also serves as our children's educational classroom. So in the Pioneer Room is set up to be a packing house. Boca Raton had 2 packing houses on the railroad, and the packing houses are where the farmers would bring their produce, crate them up, and put them on the train going north. So they were large structures, and the largest structures in the town, actually. So we have the packing house. We also have artifacts from our early pioneer families. We are a very, very lucky historical society to have started when our pioneers were still alive. And so we were able to get many, many artifacts. Well, we have a diary from Mr. Cheesebro, who was our largest landowner and farmer in the early days. His diary spans 30 years, and his family gave it to us. And so we have 30 years of history on this community and the wider community. He talks about bicycling to Miami, going to Key West, bicycling to Delray to go to the movies, and which movies he saw. So we know what was being shown down here. It was really, really great. So that gives us a little, narrative of early life. We have the files and ledger books of Thomas Rickards, who was our very first settler. And behind you, we have things that were used in the homes here. This was our first phone. It was at Mr. Brink's store, which was right here behind Town Hall. The stove that was in Singing Pines, the little cottage that is the Children's Museum, was the Children's Museum. And then we have other implements here. We have a kerosene lamp and a pitcher and spoons, washing tub and all sorts of things. But life was tough. It was really tough. And our pioneers came from places farther north that already had running water and electricity. And they came down here, and there was not either one. Well, also like the heat. And the heat, the bugs, the whole thing. Fever and all that. Yeah. But we were a railroad town, so we made sure we had something reminiscent of our railroad roots. And so we have an engineer's cab here that the kids can play with a little bit. And in the windows, we see scenes as if the train is going down the tracks. And these were actual buildings that were in Boca Raton. Yeah, it really is cool. And the large mural here is a photo of the inside of one of our packing houses. The original photo was about a 4x6 size, and it blew up to something really, really special. Yes, I know. And our designers colorized it, but look at the features on these people.
Now, where were these packing houses located?
One was about where we are. Okay. They were right downtown, right around the railroad track. So, yes, right here. Yeah, and then this corner tells the story of our Pearl City community and the story of our Yamato community with the Japanese. So, yeah, it's really great. The original Yamato was here in Boca.
And now Pearl City too. When do you know when that was?
1915 is when the pioneers here set aside land for an African American neighborhood, and they started selling lots at that time, and so. The same early Pearl City families are still associated with Pearl City. It's wonderful.
I know that recently they were trying to save one of the houses.
Yes, we still are. We need. It has not happened. We're hoping we can save that very last original house.
Always come together.
We're trying. It's always hard. Yeah, we need a place to move it, yeah.
Okay, we are in the Meisner room, Addison Meisner, and we're going to learn a little bit about that. We've been to the Boca Raton Resort several times. We love it there. So why don't you kind of explain what you have? It looks like you have a lot of things here.
We do. We have more in storage, but the exhibit here features Meisner artifacts, and nearly all of the furniture in this room was produced by Meisner Workshops in West Palm Beach. Meisner was not only an architect, but he furnished his buildings, furnished them inside and outside. You will see inside furniture and outside furniture. But over here on this wall is our furniture that was in the original Cloister Inn. We have original headboards, chairs, This is a dining table. The leather chair is a dining table. This is a chest. A lamp. He made lamps. He made pottery. We have over here, we have wrought iron, which he made, more pottery, and implements like a letterbox and other things that were in the rooms. The script tells the story of Meisner and the types of things that he did. He was sort of like a Renaissance man. He could do a lot of things. He was ahead of his time. He was also caught up in the boom, the Florida boom, and he was one of the large developers. Probably, we say the best one. I mean, the most talented one for sure. And so we have here the original doors, or windows actually, that were in the dining room of the original Cloister Inn. Oh, wow. Yeah, there were 12. We have 11. Okay. And more examples of what Meisner did with his light fixtures. This is a Savonarola chair on loan from the hotel. There are only 3 in existence, and they have all 3, so they loaned us one. And this is a model of a castle that Meisner was going to build in Lake Boca Raton. There was a little island off the western shore of Lake Boca Raton, and this was going to be where he lived. And when he died, he was going to leave that to the city for a museum. So this could have been where we are. Aww. But he never built it. So Meisner came in 25, and he was only here about 2 years, 2.5 years, and he went back to Palm Beach. And he had huge plans for Boca Raton and really was never able to complete his plans.
Was there like some financial issues?
Oh yeah, he went bankrupt basically, and as did all the other developers. So it wasn't just Meisner. Yeah. And in this corner, we have this gorgeous Vargueño, which was his desk, and we got it from the hotel. Isn't that great? This is an antique from Spain. He purchased antiques, brought them back here, and copied them. So quite the man. He was quite a visionary, and as you know, everything's named after him. Yeah. So he really had quite an influence on Boca Raton.
Even up in Delray, there's a lot of influence from him too, as far as his architecture and his architectural firm, the people that worked for him. So I mean, his influence is everywhere. So he was quite a ahead of his time, amazing person. So
and here he is.
There you go. Introduce him. Okay, now that over there is the Addison, right?
That is the Addison. Now the Addison was the headquarters for the Meisner Development Corporation. It was the first building he built in Boca, 1925. And it was 2 buildings, and they've now been joined, but it was 2 buildings. And he had, rooms to bring in investors and people who wanted to buy land or buy a building that he was going to build. He had the first restaurant in Boca Raton over there. He actually slept there sometimes because he still lived in Palm Beach. He had his offices there, the drafting rooms, all those things were there. Yeah, it was quite nice. It was quite nice. Okay, we're going down the timeline here, and we've gone through the pioneer years, and we're going up here now to the Depression and the 30s. And Meisner, when Meisner went bankrupt in the late 20s, his Meisner Development Corporation land was purchased by one of his investors, Mr. Geist, Clarence Geist, and Mr. Geist turned the hotel into a private club. He tripled the size of the club. He had architect Schultz and Weaver come and redesigned the club, basically. Tripled the size, and it became a private club. And he had FEC Railway build this cute little depot, which we still have today, so that his guests could arrive in style. But Geist owned the hotel all the way up until about World War II. So now we're going to move chronologically into our next exhibit, which is our World War II exhibit.
So we are in the World War II exhibit, and this is all about how the influence happened here in Boca Raton, correct?
Boca was selected for the location for the it's really the Army Air Force base, and so it was called the Boca Raton Army Airfield. It was selected because of its good flying weather, as we all know, and nice weather and lots of space. So we were the home of the largest military base in the state of Florida, 5,800 acres. The radar was the big top secret here, and it was taught to pilots that were flying to Europe to use. I mean, they had to use radar. So, but it was very, 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 very secretive. If one of the servicemen mentioned the word radar, they were sent home. It was bad. So they didn't talk about it. But they were here, and we had a town of maybe 750 population, and we had thousands of servicemen and women come and go, up to 50,000, come and go in Boca Raton. And the base was huge. The airport and FAU were only the runways of the base, not the most, that was not even the major part of the base. Everything in Boca was militarized. The hotel was militarized. It housed troops. Every house in Boca housed families and troops, and not troops, but families that followed the servicemen here. But the artifacts in this room are ours. They have been given to us by families of the people who served here. And we're really, really proud of them. We have letters, patches, poems, drawings, artifacts, just mementos, souvenirs, things that were sent home. It was just an amazing time in Boca's history. And up above, we have a replica of a B-17. This was the most popular plane on the base. There were lots of different types of planes, but this was a real big plane and probably the most popular plane in the war. But around the upper edge, we have a dogfight going on. We actually have planes coming in and lots of firepower over here on this one. It comes and goes. Okay. But it's kind of exciting. And this corner here to my left is the story of radar. And it starts in England, where it was created, and then comes here to be developed. And in the little radar console here, we have a movie from the 40s that explains airborne radar. And these U-boats, these are German, this is a model of a German U-boat. German U-boats were all up and down the East Coast, all around into the Gulf of Mexico. And they were destroying our merchant fleet the merchant fleet was going around supplying bases with, supplies. And we had a very active war going on in the Atlantic with these U-boats. And you'll see here that this is a page of a diary of one of the guys in our watchtower. And there were how many? Let's see, say 10 sightings of explosions in the ocean over the course of a week, about 10 days. That's how close the war was to us. And it's really scary.
The housing, I know they used to have, I think they were called T buildings.
Mm-hmm. We had buildings that are now on the FAU campus, but let me show you this map. It's really much easier. This is Town Hall is down here. This is Federal, and this is Palmetto, okay? These buildings along here are mostly warehouses. You can see barracks, things like that. Mm-hmm. The T buildings are over here. These were classrooms. Mm-hmm. And the runways were up here, and that's where FAU is and the airport. But T buildings means temporary, but all the buildings were built to be temporary.
Yeah, I was going to say my daughter was renting an apartment in a T building up by FAU. Yeah. And there's a couple, I think there's one on Spanish River.
There are lots of them still there. Not lots.
Yeah. So I know that they're historic, and I think people are trying to save them. So that's good to know.
We're now in our largest room, which is the council chamber. This room was the room that the city council met in for many, many years. It was also, being the largest room in town, was the place where people held weddings and funerals and everything else.
Look at those ceilings.
Yeah, the ceilings are beautiful. They're Pecky cypress. The building, Town Hall, was originally designed by Edison Meisner. And during the 20s, the city, if the land bust, the city had no income. And so they had to fire Meisner. And they hired a local architect from Delray, Mr. Alsmeyer, who pared down the building and made it smaller. But many of the elements of the building had already been ordered. And the Pecky cypress ceiling was one of the things that Meisner loved. And so that was already on order. And the wrought iron that you see in the building was on order. That's from Meisner Industries. The floors were all Meisner floors, all Meisner tile. And this side of the building, the west side has wooden floors. The east side has tile floors. We don't know why.
Okay.
But anyway, so this is why the building still looks a little bit like Meisner. Mm-hmm. But this is the council chamber. It doubles as our lecture hall and our changing exhibit space. The exhibit that's up right now is mid-century modern architecture in Boca Raton. This is from the 50s and 60s. Many of these buildings still exist. Many have been, have been demolished. Some have been modified. But the most prolific architect in Boca during the 50s and 60s was Howard McCall. So we have a lot of his drawings and a lot of photographs of his things. But we sent out a call to our members to ask for artifacts. And we got some really, really interesting things, as you can see here. And it's so funny it's really just fun to go through and recognize some of these things from my childhood.
Yeah. Now, are there any buildings that you can tell us about that are still existing that
Saint-
have been modified? Or,
St. Gregory's Church is one. That's one of Howard's buildings. There's a church on 4th Avenue called Church on the Hill up by Temple Bethel. It's a swooping roof line. That was one of his buildings. He designed many of the houses, or most of them, in Camino Gardens. And then you'll look around here and you'll see some others that he did. And some of them are gone, but I remember a lot of them. That's Camino Gardens. But it's really interesting, and I'm hoping we can save a few of these. Because.
Well, this ceiling is beautiful. Now, when you mentioned event space, I know you have like lecture talks and things like that. You've had something like on archaeology, right? Last year, I think it was, with what they found at Ocean Strand. And then I think you're going to have something again, right?
We have we have a town hall talk next week on the Pleistocene era in Florida. Yeah, it's super interesting. Yeah.
So that's great. So now you offer these like what, once a month?
Pretty much once a month. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But we open them up to the community. They're not expensive, and they're just always super interesting.
Yeah, one of the other things I saw that you do is you now offer the Boca Raton Resort tour.
We do tours on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month. And they're public tours on Tuesday afternoons at 2. And you can make reservations on our website.
And do they go through the whole hotel, or kind of?
No, you don't. You go through the public areas, and it's a history tour. So there's an explanation about the hotel and how it has changed over the years and the different owners. It's an interesting story.
So we're in the IBM room, which is very, very famous here in Boca. So do you want to go through the history with us on that?
Yeah, just a little bit. IBM came to Boca Raton in 1969. They originally built, of course, a very historic building that was designed by famous architects, and they came to build a manufacturing facility to create and to build mainframe computers, and which they did, for the next 10 years or so. But sometime during those years, IBM gave a group of engineers the freedom to go on their own for a year and come up with a small computer that would be a personal type computer. And things were starting to happen other places. Different computers were coming along, different parts of computers. One company would create this, another would create that. But IBM wanted to do the whole thing. So within a year, a group of 12 guys, the Dirty Dozen, created what we now know as the IBM PC. And it literally changed the world. And what we have here is a pre-production PC that was owned by Fred Gatz, one of the Dirty Dozen. And he was awarded this, I guess, and he actually invented the little plastic holder there for your paper for the dot matrix computer. And he also created the chiclet keyboard here, which was used for gaming because you could put different, templates over the top. So what we have around the walls here, this back wall is the family of PCs that were created here in Boca. And you can go from the early PC all the way up to the small portable PCs over the years. And the wall here is the history of IBM in Boca Raton with the building and just the things that they did. There were so many IBM employees in Boca. Boca just was growing like crazy when the IBMers came. And everything in Boca was affected. Our schools, our churches, everything. And they were a wonderful influence for our community. Wonderful.
So they were really part of like the boom of Boca. I know that originally everybody used to call them like the T-Rex buildings, and I know there's been several renditions. I think, what is it up to now?
It's now brick.
Okay, brick. Yeah, and it's just the architecture is just so 70s. Yeah, so it's great. But yeah, and I think are they still here, kind of, or?
IBMers are here, but many of them have started their own businesses, their own tech businesses. So technology is alive and well in Boca Raton. Believe me, it's just you don't have a huge building to house it anymore. You don't need that. So, but innovation is happening all around us. It's really great. IBM came because we had a university, and they could see the potential here for Boca Raton. So, yeah, a lot is happening right now.
Okay, so we're getting a little sneak peek of the library that's usually kind of off limits and kind of a research area. So we're getting this special tour. So why don't you tell us about it?
Okay. We have a huge archive here and a lot of information on the history of this area. And the library houses much of our archive and much of our research materials. And people come here to do research, whether it's a homeowner, an architect, a land planner, a city person, historians, etc. This is one of our most active programs right here in this library. So it's a living, breathing room, and it continues to collect and produce. So and this is sort of the heart of the history of Boca Raton right here.
So these are antique tables?
These are, yes, antique tables, absolutely from 1500s. They're old, yes. These are the dining chairs in the original cloister inn. Yep. We're using our antiques here.
All right, so this is actually right off the street, and it's a little bit of an entrance here, but there's a lot of traffic, so most people come in from behind. But why don't you go through what this section is?
Okay. This section is often overlooked, but it is a visitor information center for Boca Raton and South Palm Beach County, and is sanctioned by the county. And so we do get materials from Discover the Palm Beaches, and we add things for here. Like we have information, we have maps, bus routes, newspapers, magazines, things that visitors would be interested in. And of course, a lot of it is just questions that we answer. And but we're always happy to have visitors here.
And Christmas ornaments.
Oh, yeah. We have yes, we do. We produce an ornament each year with an historic theme. So we have over 20 different ones. Yeah.
Now, you also have a gift shop.
We do.
Do you want to give us a little tour of that?
Sure. When we moved the gift shop into here with our renovation, we determined that we wanted to have souvenir type items for Boca Raton. And so we produced some shirts and some, buttoned type sweaters. We have housewares in the form of platters and placemats, coasters, paintings of historic buildings, lots of books, history books, things that are of interest to South Florida. We just go on and on, but it's really little things to help you remember South Florida and Boca Raton.
Now, the blue and white, is there a special meaning?
Well, when we moved in, we re-logoed ourselves, basically. And so our colors are navy blue and copper. Okay. So the navy blue is our color.
Great. Very nice.
Yeah, and so we try to do seaside type, souvenirs, South Florida, and and it's done very well.
The event last night, the Boca Bacchanal. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And is that one of your major fundraisers?
Yes. We've been doing Boca Bacchanal since 2003. We started the same year that South Beach Wine Festival started, and it's been successful every year. The two events that have lasted all these years and not been changed are the Vintner Dinners, which we have one night, and they're wine dinners in private homes or historic locations. And the next day is usually something called the Grand Tasting, which is a wine tasting, and seminars and things like that. So this year, our big change this year is the Vintner Dinners are on Saturday night, April 29th, excuse me, April 29th, and then the Grand Tasting is going to be at the Addison on Sunday afternoon with seminars and wine tastings.
So now, are those individual, just historic homes that people have?
No, it's just a homes. This year, we're doing one at the hotel, and we're doing one at Seagate, different places too. And, we try to just change it up every year a little bit.
Right. Now, the event last night, was that at the airport?
That was at the airport in the Privera hangar, and it was a pre-event. And last night, we announced the chefs and vintners that would be at each vintner dinner. So it's kind of an announcement thing. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And are there any other events or special things coming up as far as?
Not yet. We've got some ideas. Yeah, no.
Okay, so what about as far as new exhibits? Is there anything new going to be?
This summer, we're going to have an exhibit on Pearl City.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so that'll last from June until probably fall.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it'll be a long time.
That will be the next example. Great. All right. Well, again, I just want to thank you for your time. You were so accommodating and so welcoming, and I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Hi, welcome back, and I hope you enjoyed that tour. If you haven't been there, they do offer, I think it's the first Saturday of each month, free admission. Definitely worth going to, even if you live in Delray, just to be able to see a little bit of the history. She does talk a lot about Delray in the tour also. So, again, I'm hoping that everybody got a chance to watch this and enjoyed it. So, let's move on to a little bit of updates and some science, technology, and art. So, first, for Palm Beach County residents, it's really important. We have a new area code. So, instead of just 561, we've totally depleted all 561 numbers. There are so many new residents here, as we all know. So now our new area code, in addition to 561, will be 728. So if you see a phone call coming into you from 728, they are local, just as local as 561. So I just want to make sure everybody was aware, because everybody's always so worried about who's calling them. And I just want to make sure that you know 728 is a local number, just as much as 561 going forward. So that's kind of important. The next thing I wanted to give a little update on is I saw this picture, and it's from Portugal, but they've also instituted, I think we talked about in the episode about the future of cities in Boca and Delray, and traffic and parking solutions. We talked about the 15-minute city. We talked about getting the cars off the road, right? Not building more places for the cars, but changing behaviors, providing a great infrastructure system, and so forth, as far as like freebies and water taxis and all those things we went through. So when I saw this picture, I said, this is a great example, again, of what other countries and even in the United States are doing. They're trying to get the downtowns less cars, not car less, but just less. So here is a picture of the square in Lisbon, I think it's Lisbon, Portugal, in 1960, and then again in 2021. And as you see, they still have cars right there in the front there by the entryway of that building, but the square itself is now no longer, it's off limits to cars and so forth. So again, here's a great step forward. They're trying to get the traffic and the congestion out of these downtowns. So this is kind of what the new urban planning is, all right? So again, if you didn't get a chance to look at that episode, it's called The Cities of the Future, Boca del Rey, Traffic Solutions, Parking Solutions. And definitely take a look. It's worth a watch. It's amazing what's coming down as far as new urban planning concepts, the 15-minute city, and so forth. Okay, so this is really interesting. So now I remember seeing this a while ago. I think it's been in development for about 10 years or so, but now it's actually made its debut. It debuted at the Munich, Germany Auto Show, and it came out on a Mini Cooper. And so these are in production now. Michelin has put them in production, and Goodyear is also coming out with their rendition or type of car tire also. And but they are in production, and they are basically going to really help. There's not much difference at all in performance. They're punctureless. When people are driving them, and they've tested them over and over, like I said, they've been in development for years. There's really no difference. They're made from recyclable materials, recyclable rubber. It's going to help the environment so that all these tires are not being put in landfills and burning and just put in the ocean and everything else. So it's really going to cut down on waste. It's getting much more green. It's recyclable, and they don't puncture, which is fantastic, right? So the United States is actually going to start piloting it. I think it's 2024 on the Chevy Volt. So it's going to come here first on the Chevy Volt, and then it's going to expand outwards, especially now when Goodyear's coming in with their rendition also. But right now, Michelin has these in production. And again, they were debuted in Germany at the auto show on the Mini Cooper. So again, this is a great airless tire. Not much difference in handling, performance, and so forth. So they finally developed something that is great, and it's coming, and it is here now. So I wanted to make sure you guys knew about that. Okay, now this is an Airlander airship, and Spain has 10 of these right now. They've already ordered them. They're going to be putting them in service as of 2025, and they're just amazing. So I want to play a little video clip for you to see the outside and kind of how it works. And I'm also going to show some pictures while it's playing of the interior. So again, there's a purpose for this. This isn't going to replace airplanes and commuting and things like that, and but there is a purpose for these. So I thought this was really interesting. These are already in place. They're not something that's in development. Like I mentioned, Spain's going to start utilizing them, already has them on order. So take a look at this quick video, and hopefully you'll be as fascinated as I was with them.
Cardington Airfield, 17th August 2016. A historic day for aviation. The world's largest aircraft, the Airlander, takes to the skies for the first time on its maiden flight, pushing the boundaries with a new way of flying and bringing new capabilities in a green and sustainable manner.
I'm Dave Burns, the Chief Test Pilot, and I've had the privilege of flying Airlander on all its flights. Airlander is a brand new type of aircraft that flies in a unique way, combining the best characteristics of traditional airplanes and airships. We took off just before dusk in perfect conditions, and we quickly climbed above Cardington.
Airlander's capabilities opens up a world of opportunity. It can remain airborne for up to 5 days, land and take off from a multitude of surfaces including grass, ice or water, transport up to 10 tonnes point to point without the need for airports or infrastructure. No roads, no runways, no railways. Whether it's delivering fuel or equipment to remote parts of Alaska, providing temporary communication networks above disaster zones, delivering aid when tsunamis and earthquakes strike, or creating the ultimate luxury tourism experience on safari in Africa, the Airlander is a step change in aerospace capability.
I'm Simon Davis, experimental test pilot at Hybrid Air Vehicles. Coming into land, we rotate the forward engines to get some cushioning upward thrust and gently float the last few feet to land safely. Flying Airlander, you get a real sense of how versatile and groundbreaking it will be in the many different roles it's been designed for.
The first flight of an entirely new aircraft is the starting point of an exciting journey through a rigorous flight test program, followed by a series of trials and demonstrations. With the power to take off virtually anywhere and the ability to stay airborne for days at a time, Airlander can connect the world. Imagine the possibilities.
Okay, now moving a little bit into marine biology, I just saw this and I just thought to myself, I have to show this because it's incredible how nature works, right? So Dr. Michael Sweet posted pictures of the ocean sunfish. It's a fully grown one that can go up to 1,000 kilograms. And it starts out on the right side there. You'll see these tiny little, they call them like beaded babies, tiny babies. And it's amazing how they can go from that small to over 1,000 kilos of fish. So it's one of those fascinating nature things. And I thought, we're seeing a lot more of these sunfish. So I just thought, again, something to look out for. They're out, they are out around this area, out further, a little bit out in the ocean. But I just thought, again, going from little tiny beaded fish to something so large, full grown, is just amazing, part of nature. So when I saw this, I said, oh, I want to share this. So hope you guys like that. Okay, so today for art, I'm doing architecture. And the reason I'm doing architecture is because we just went through this whole historical society or historical museum in Boca. And I thought it was so apropos to show some beautiful buildings, some facades, some things like that. So here we go with that. First, being a prior New Yorker, I thought it was really interesting. I had never known this, that the original Waldorf Astoria Hotel was demolished in 1929 to actually be the site for the Empire State Building. And this building is enormous, and it was beautifully done. And the architecture is just amazing at the top and just the details. And I never knew that there was a building there beforehand or what it was or whatever before the Empire State Building. So again, this was demolished in 1929. But when I saw this, I said, oh, I don't think a lot of people know this. And I want to make sure I share this, again, going with the history theme of architecture. Here's a store that used to be a bakery that has sold bread and cakes. And again, it's just showing how even though the historical building itself might be there, it's so important to keep the original facade. If you look at the detail in the upper part of this store, the signage, the moldings, the street light, the windows, the showcase windows, the corner entrance, and look where it's at now. I mean, it's just honestly, it's just sad. It's just so sad because the workmanship and detail in this prior store was beautiful. And so again, this is another example of a changing facade that we really need to make sure, especially down here in Florida, when we do have some historic buildings here, because, you know, a lot of these buildings were built in the early 1900s. We have to make sure that they're maintained and the facades are maintained also. Okay, so here's some good news. I know I had shown one of these in a prior episode whenever I see something that's been restored. So here's a perfect example of a home that over the years was changed. The screened-in porch was enclosed. The facade was changed. And then look at the new one down there. Oh, the front stoops, the steps had been changed. And then look at the restoration on the bottom picture. Absolutely stunning. Stunning. And I would just want to make sure that I showed this because it is possible. And you have to have a passion for it. But once it's done, it's absolutely stunning. So again, kudos to them for restoring this. Whenever I see something like this, I'm going to bring it up because more of this has to happen. And hopefully we don't have to get to what's in the top picture to begin with if we just maintain and restore what's there and keep the facades. Okay, a lot of this also, architecture and art, really goes down to details, right? So the details are so important, and this is where the craftsmanship and it's getting lost and everything else. And when I saw this the other day, I said, this is a great example. A lot of these older buildings are being, historically maintained. And one of the fascinating things about them are the details. And here's just an example of even just the drain pipes are detailed, right? And have art and craftsmanship that were done, molders and so forth that had to shape these. And so again, these little details are so important. So let's try to maintain as much as we can again. This again is part of the theme of today with the Historic Museum. So I thought it was so appropriate again to show these. So getting to another thing of art today, another aspect of art, I just wanted to show this. This is down in Miami. Now this is in the Perez Art Museum. It's a new exhibit. And I just thought the colors and the shapes, again, if you're into modern art, is just really impressive. And I thought, what a great idea. I've talked about this before. Getting on Brightline, going down to Miami, get there in less than an hour, go see some museums, have a nice lunch, and hop back on. I mean, this is beautiful. And again, something different. We can only go to so many museums around here, the Norton and the Boger Museum, whatever. Sometimes it's nice to see something different. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, I definitely want to make sure I share this with you guys. And then this was kind of cute. I know, I think it was last episode or the episode before, I had put, there was a drawing of a little pig around a little sewer cap. And I said, it's so cute. These items don't cost a lot for cities to do, but they're just so whimsical and cute. And when I saw this, I was like, when your tree eats your fence, I was like, this is so adorable, right? So that somebody went by and put little googly eyes on this when they saw that this tree had taken over this part of this fence. But again, it's like just something cute, something fun, something that make you smile, right? It doesn't have to be this elaborate, whatever, production. It's just, something cute, something to make you smile. And then today I'm going to end again with just a few of my photos. I'm going to keep digging. I know I've got some real masterpieces that I have. So hopefully we're going to see more and more of my stuff at the end. But again, here's some beautiful artwork, photos that I have from right here on the beach. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next week.